I mean,
Whoa.
2025, let's go, Z.
In all honesty, I got to watch a little bit of what you've done in your garage throughout the pandemic a few years ago, and I was like, I need a taste of that hot apple pie, right? It's my first time in here.
Yeah, we've had some good times down here. Man, it's super exciting. Great holiday. You had a great holiday. I know I've seen a lot of the stuff with you and the family. We've talked a bunch. We got to go to Whoville before Christmas, which is Christmas in itself. But man, I'm just fired up for a new year of bass fishing. We got cold weather around here, so why not kick it off in the studio talking about everything fun for the new year coming? Because there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, a lot of controversy in the sport these days. Imagine that. But a lot of great things happening too. So I'm super excited. So you are kicking off your 19th year with your own television show.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. If you combined ESPN and outdoor channels, 19 years.
The ESPN era was incredible for our sport. I mean, I benefited as much as anybody during that time. The funny, crazy thing is I'm debuting my first year I've done a lot of television, but having my own show. So, both of our shows.
I have some questions about that, actually, of how, a lot of people thought you retired. You're going in retirement from tournament fishing. If it actually was a retirement now that you've done an entire year of fishing shows. So I'd like to, maybe a second episode. But you're right. It's been a weird, cool 18 months, but no doubt, definitely looking forward to the new year. That's why we kind of laid everything out.
Yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today, but obviously, I debuted my first show on the VanDam Experience. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. I'm up to bat. You're on at 8:30, so it's so cool to see that show on the Outdoor Channel next to your show. I've been on your show so many times, and my first show, it had to be this guy right here. I mean, we have so much history together. Lake St. Clair, special day, a lot of fun. We got a lot of fun coming in our future,
yes.
but it's super awesome to be able to just be part of it. But it's been a transition for sure, without a doubt.
Get him, Uncle Kevin, get him! Get him!
When we get together, there's a lot of fireworks that happen.
Oh my God.
We have had so many great days filming together. At the end of the day, we caught 150 smallmouth bass at Lake St. Clair. We caught a bunch of good ones. That guy right there, he's really special to me. I love him like a brother, and I look forward to every chance that we get out.
Kevin said this one time, he said, you're gonna have to wheel me in the boat eventually to tape Zona shows. I'll do that on a Zona show or a VanDam show, but I got a feeling I'm gonna be the one being wheeled first. I have been rode hard. Got him, right on it. It's a good one, dude.
Big bass of the Derby.
Got him, got him. We have taken a long drive down a dusty road. There are hidden gems throughout this country. Farm lakes, public farm lakes that are totally ignored. And I got news, friends. It's time to go to the batting cages. Got him. Did you see that bite? Till you start the show, bud. That's a big old public lake farm bass. I mean, God, Mr. Sexy Frog. Oh gosh, what a bite. Goodins, dude. Braid. Yeah, biggin. I was raised by silverback apes in a jungle in South America. I am Kong Jr. Beggin. How many's there? Oh my gosh. It's 8:30 and I'm exhausted. This is what bass fishing is. I mean, we busted their ass.
Give me real quick for everybody that's watching this, and we're gonna dive in a tackle and a bunch of stuff that we use on camera, off camera in the last 5 days. We've got a lot of questions actually. How are we catching them right now? We're freezing. The lakes are freezing right now, but they were wide open 4 days ago.
Yeah.
What is the biggest, even though we went hunting for 5 days, we didn't talk about this. What has been the biggest difference, because I'm interested in this, of fishing a tournament at a national level to taping a KVD experience?
So it is strikingly similar in a lot of ways. You know, you're on the clock. You got your crew there. I mean, because we're producing the show ourselves. We've got all our own people, our own team doing it all. I mean, that's who's. I mean, look, you look around. We've got this all set up right here. So you're on the hook and you're on the clock right off the get-go.
Yeah.
And so it has helped fill that. I'm a competitor. You know that. You've been around me for a long time, but it has helped fill that void for sure. I've had a great time. I think I've got some great shows coming for sure. We talk all the time, right? And you've helped me a lot behind the scenes, because this is not retirement. This is starting a new business, and it's all hands on deck. We've got, you know, Sherry is super involved. My boys have been super involved. We've got a lot of different new people that have helped out. I mean, Brandon's, you know, we have traveled the country doing all this stuff. He's right here right now making this happen, but it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. The beauty of the difference is that you do get in a little bit of the way, and you know this because I've talked to you a million times over the last 19 years, is like, hey, Kevin, I'm going here because there's a window opening and you're watching the weather. So you get a little bit of flexibility, but Mother Nature doesn't play. And you can never pick it exactly. And that's been the, you know, we've gotten burned a few times this year.
Literally, I just told you before we went live, one of the things you always, when taping a show, or I know that, you know, there's a pile of YouTubers out there, you want the beauty of getting not good content, but great content is being ahead of a bite. To be, you know, you want to be on the front end.
You want to be on the front end,
You do not want to be on the back end. And we were talking about it a few days ago that I looked at Kevin. I said, "Man, I'm leaving for Gunnersville. I'm leaving. I'm going to Gunnersville." And
it's froze.
Lo and behold, in between here and Gunnersville right now, if you're watching this, there's an inch of ice and 15 inches of snow, to where I missed that window. I totally missed that window, and that's kind of
they were biting at Christmas.
They were biting at Christmas, so kind of we died on that, but now I'll look on to whatever the next bite is. And I told Kevin, I said, what's interesting is I said, the playing field that you have been on for 33 years of your career, you're there. You're confined.
You got to deal. You're locked into those dates.
Right.
You've got to make it happen, and that's been my job. Is you got to go out, figure it out, no matter what Mother Nature throws at you, the time of the year, seasonal pattern, other tournaments being there, pressure, whatever it is. You got to go make it happen.
Yeah.
And I love that challenge. And honestly, the television part of it is the same, because when I drive to Texas or I drive to New York and we got the crew and we go do it, I'm not coming home. We're making it happen. And you know, season 1, knock on wood, we did a pretty good job of that. So
Tommy Sanders said something to me. This is something that I actually
the greatest all time in outdoor TV.
You're the Tommy Sanders of this today.
No.
One of the things that he said to me, it's never as good as you think it is. It's never as bad as you think it is. But the one thing that I said to Kevin when he started the VanDam experience was, I said, listen, you're going to have unbelievable shoots. You're going to have unbelievable, like, where you're like, man, we knocked it out of the park. And I said, you're going to actually have seasons. I've taped seasons with Brandon, cameraman Brandon, and it's very eerily similar to tournaments where a good year is awesome, but now the next year has to be
always
the biggest change. So anyway,
one big question. And me, because I'm a fan first. Like, I've been a fan of bass fishing, especially competitive bass fishing, tournament bass fishing, my whole life. Like, I grew up living the Bassmasters as a kid and watching it, grew up, followed it, did it all these years. I helped you originally maybe get your first job as a commentator.
You were definitely.
You've done it for a long time.
You had a big input in that, yes.
And recently you announced you're like, man, I'm done. I'm gonna focus on my show. I'm gonna, enjoy my kids and not retirement because I know you're like me. That's all we want to do is fish. But you're going to be back. So a lot of people were super disappointed, myself included, because there's nothing like you and Tommy commentating on an event, especially big events like the Bassmaster Classic, which is it's exponential. So what I heard that you're coming back a little bit.
I don't. Here's what's really weird about that is for 20 years sitting next to Tommy, I commentated some of your best seasons. It's really strange what this 2024 came to was Karen and I looked at each other and just kind of you hit a wall with having other obligations. That's a blessing. That's not me bitching and being a jerk about it, but you hit a wall of, man, I got to do this. What do I want to do?
I know about obligations.
You know exactly what that is. In fact, it was weird when you retired from MLF. I looked at Karen and I said, because I told you this.
We have talked about it.
We were going to retire together. That was kind of a master.
About it.
That was a master plan. So anyway, long story short was to sit in that role, no matter what. Like what's weird is a lot of people say it's a dream job, and it was. It is. It was one of the best things of my entire life. But you have to stay entrenched in that every single day, every single minute. And I just had other obligations. So anyway, long story short.
I know you, dude, because you're the biggest. If I ever want to know anything about any game, you're the biggest NFL fan there is.
That's a good thing and a bad thing.
No, well, it is. But what I'm saying is to make an analogy, because people appreciate this, to be that you have to stay focused on it. You put the work in behind the scenes to learn about the players.
I know more about the Lions' defensive line than you do, and you're the biggest.
I'm talking about bass fishing.
So anyway, but I agree with that.
But you have to know the players. You got to know the playing field, and you can't do your job and not give it 110% because I know you.
Yeah.
And if you're going to commentate an event, you're going to do the homework to learn. If it's Santee Cooper, to do the backstory, to figure out what's going on, to follow the weather, just like you were fishing the event, to know that you're going to cover it, and then the primetime players, and then as it starts to develop after day one, as you're watching it live to day four, you have to be all in.
I always think, and still think that professional bass fishing is a sport. I do. I treated bass fishing the way I look at it then from when I started, long before I started actually, before I knew you, when I saw your name in a magazine living in Chicago, to I do now of being a sport. The one thing that I thought that this is hard for what I'm going to say, and which went into what I'm going to do with Tommy and Bassmaster is to do a podcast with Tommy. I'm still going to do the classic, the Bassmaster Classic. That's the only tournament I'm doing this year. But the biggest thing I wanted to do was always talk about the premier players in the sport, who's excelling. But there's always been a red flag thrown up of you cannot talk about anglers that are not catching them. Don't ever say, right. Listen, I'm like every one of you, okay? I'm like every one of you. I look at the top of the standings, the bottom of the standings, and I just want to see who is the top 20, the bottom 20. And that's a little bit what the podcast that I'm doing with Tommy is going to be. And I told him, I said, hey, you got to call out who throws touchdowns. You also got to call out who throws interceptions. With that being said, the major part of that podcast, which hell, we can talk about it in here, an episode from now or two doing this together. You got to talk about the dudes that aren't catching them, that you in your mind, that you on your fantasy team say they should be catching them. Why not? Why aren't they? And that's always been a taboo, a dark closet in fishing, and I think that should be opened up because I think it also brings life and legitimacy to professional fishing.
So the thing that
I never called
known,
you out on your bad year.
Well, you should have.
It was I
one?
totally did. I totally did.
Well, so I'm a huge NASCAR fan. Martin Truex Jr. is one of my best friends, dude. I have never pulled more for anybody than I did him his final season last year, and he did not have a great year,
right,
at all. But the bottom line is when there's a race going on, it's not just about the leaders. There's some great racing mid-pack, and then there's stories towards the back of the field too.
Yes.
And everybody deserves to hear about that. And if you're an insider like we are to the sport, you've got to cover all that. So I commend you for taking a look at that.
Well, I'll take arrows for it. Trust me. I know. I already know. Anyway,
you're going to.
It'll all be
and
good.
It's all part of it. But man, I mean, I'm super excited. There's obviously a lot going on. The number one controversy in the sport is forward-facing sonar. You bring that up, and you know as well as I do. You do a show or you do a piece, and you've done it. I mean, we have both worked really heavily on the Mega Live 2 launch. I mean, for Humminbird.
Big time.
Obviously,
Big time.
Technology is a huge part of our sport. It's always been. I have been a beneficiary for many years. Lake Master mapping, side imaging, down imaging, Mega 360, all of that, and
your problem is in the era that you fished in. Okay,
Yep.
You utilized side imaging, Lake Master. For you now to, or anybody from that era to say, well, doggone it, forward-facing sonar, blah blah blah, makes you hypocrite. It's a very hard line.
If I say anything about it, you can't win. I mean, you post something about forward-facing sonar and you get crucified because it's very lopsided. There's a lot of people that love it. It's fun, dude.
I've never seen anything that's lopsided.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of people that it's flip-sided for sure. But technology is part of the sport, always has been. I know that you and I have been a big part of working with the team at Humminbird to up their game because they were behind for sure. And I know, you're part of the Explorer launch, the Mega Live 2 launch, and it's for real. It's unbelievable what it's capable of. And whatever you decide, that you want, and I get it that if you're a bank fisherman or you're a kayak fisherman, you don't want to invest in it. But there's a lot of people that do, and it's fun, man. It's really good, but the technology it's there. It's there.
If you rewind to 2010, you utilized every piece of tool that was out there.
You have to.
Anybody that was a rookie,
it's your job
absolutely
as a professional angler.
Right. And the other side was I'm staring at the scorpion right now. Karen was last year. We did a whole season of Zona shows, and look, man, I still flip, frog, dock.
I love
thunder, the whole deal. But what was interesting about last season was I said there's going to be a show that will end up being the most informative show we've ever done in my entire career, catching largemouth on a lake right outside of your barn right here in 70 feet of water. And I said it's the most informative show, and we're going to take more arrows when it airs, and we did. But the other side of that is look, man, I rewind back to, I don't want to be long-winded on this, I rewind to Ron Lindner, Al Lindner, the teachers of this sport. That's kind of when a camera's running. That's what our job is. Now, if you want to embrace that technology, do that. If you don't.
The Linders within fishermen taught us to look away from the bank, right?
100%.
They were the 100%. Original structure fishermen.
100%.
I mean, they taught 100%. Us to look away, and you're spot on. So I have lived my life around the sport, and I've competed for 33 years. And forward-facing sonar, Mega Live, has changed everything that I thought was a fact into it's a lie.
I hate to say it. It made
there's
a lot
of there's a pile of fish that don't ever come to the bank.
It's made a lot of articles that.
Well, it's just
shows that we've done. Louis, it's made articles and so many things. I hate to say it, not factual throughout the last 20 years, you're starting to learn that a bass is actually, anyway, you can go on this for hours and hours.
Hey, I'll just break it down with this. Some live in the valleys, some live in the mountains,
right.
baby.
That's
it.
right. That's
I mean,
right.
they don't,
That's right.
we thought they all, my long-term belief was that bass relate to structure. And structure is a depth change, not cover, not grass, not wood. They love all that too, but that bass are always going to be, somewhat, unless there's pods of bait fish here or there. And what Forward Facing Sonars proved is that they swim around in the open way more than we ever
Well,
thought.
I can tell you, whatever ones did relate to structure, you caught every damn one of them that was there at the time that they were there.
It's opened everybody's eyes.
Yeah,
But
totally.
That being said, I can just tell you this: the new Humminbird technology, it's lights out. It's next level. It's impressive.
I got to spend a lot of time with that, and we did the whole release, and I knew that was a big thing for Johnson Outdoors, and as a whole.
Yeah, but forget about it. Johnson, Lowrance, Garmin, everybody. The one thing, people might want to bash it, but secretly they're all using it. They're all getting one. And they want everybody, just like you or I don't care if it's this bait or this reel, we want to have the best, right?
100%.
So that's the space race or the arms race that's out there in technology.
There's also it's weird, but like in your show, in my show, there's a balance in there.
Yeah.
There's a balance, and what's funny is I find myself trying, you're trying to serve every single person that watches the show, whether you're a dock banger like I am. Kevin, you know that. I want to start on a dock, end on a dock, and I'm good. I'm done for the day. But you have to serve every different viewer. And what I've learned through time is you're not going to satisfy every viewer, but you try to spread all of that out.
Well,
it's been fun. The last 12 months been fun to learn a lot from that.
Yeah. So I can just tell you that we've finished up the first year of the VanDam experience filming, and we've been all over the country, and it's real diverse. It's up and down, back and forth, and I learned a ton. I learned a ton about production. I learned a ton about what I think is right, and I promise you that year 2 will be a lot better. There's a lot of things that we want to change, but I've had so much fun, and it doesn't matter to me if I'm using Mega Live and I'm doing that show and catching them in 50 foot of water, or I'm throwing a frog or a topwater up on the dirt. I've had a blast doing all of it.
I have fished with you.
And you can learn from all of it.
Absolutely, and I fished with you long enough when it comes to take a camera aside. What you watch on television, if I look at your screen right there, what you watch, I know how you are. You want to see what you're into, what your jam is. I know I fished with you enough. I know what your gig is.
What we love.
Absolutely.
Smallmouth, right?
And that's to me, that's always been the biggest thing of doing a fishing show is selfishly, I told you this when the first time you called me and said, man, I'm thinking of starting a show. I said, shoot the shows that you have passion in the way you're fishing, or else it won't show. It will not show.
Well, I hope.
Now, with that being said, I got to cut you off. I said this in your interview. Brandon edited this out. And I mean this about VanDam experience. Look, man, I was honored. I was like humbled, and still can't believe I was your first guest. But I'm like every single one of them out there. You're a little bit like McRib. And what I mean by that is everybody wants to know why it's good, why it's great, but don't. Dude, I love you. I still fish with you. I still don't understand why you were good on TVAs, why you were good on certain, you know what I mean? And in my interview, I said, look, I'm like every single one of you. I want to know the juice behind the curtain. I want to know what makes the McRib, man.
Well, we we tried to show a lot of it. I mean,
Only reason I said that, I just went by a McDonald's and there was a McRib.
McRib sign, yes.
Who don't like a McRib?
No, so one of my favorite shows of the year was we decided, because the time frame was so long that we were going to be in Florida for the Heavy Hitters event, that we got to shoot a show during practice.
It was brilliant. I remember you called me on that.
I said, do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
I'm asking your advice. I've asked you a lot of advice on television shows and things, and it turned out to be like, it couldn't have worked out better. That show, it's going to air on the Outdoor Channel, and it's a half-hour show, but God, there's so much there. I mean, it made me rethink about what my process and what I do. So, I mean, the show is basically breaking down how I practice for a tournament, what I go through, my thought processes and all that. So I loved it. I had a great time doing it. We had a really good practice, caught a lot of good fish, had a good tournament.
You caught a 10-pounder in practice?
Yeah.
On camera?
On camera. You don't do that.
That's a good start to a show.
Semi-chain?
It's in the opening of your show, I think it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But, I'm not sure. I mean, it's my first time. I'm not sure what viewers are going to think of my show as a whole. So ours are across the board. I mean, there's solo shows. I had some great guests. We had a blast. And to me, it was important to tell. A lot of people know our story, but a lot of people don't.
Right.
Like why we are as close as we are, and it's because of our kids being born so early, and we both love fishing, but that's the reason we got together to begin with. But there's so much more than that. But
I'm going to throw something on your opening. Your first tournament, and I know you like to be teed up on questions, and you don't like just thrown out questions. Was a linear catch, spinnerbait catch. Okay.
Yep.
Camouflage. You're the first one that made camouflage pants cool. You actually made denim cool for. You kept denim going all the way into the better side of the 90s, but something that did not stay cool. And I remember these days. I could tell you the size of the spinnerbait, white on white, white skirt, white blade spinnerbait. Why did the bladed spinnerbait? The colored, the painted blades
on spinnerbait?
Why did they go away so fast? I was like, because here's what I can tell you. I bought thousands of dollars worth.
Yeah, well, so they work phenomenal it's a cloudy day thing for sure. They still do in clear water. And the beauty is that, and it's no fault of anything other than that. Look at all these tools we have in our tackle box now.
Right.
I mean, back then we had a spinnerbait. Now we've got, swim baits, we got thunder crickets, we got buzz baits, we got square bills, we got,
Pinger minnows, homing minnows.
We got a million things that you can throw in the same spot, where we had to figure out how to trick them with a spinnerbait. But, that to me is really important. So you look at the open of my show, the first face you see is Ray Scott.
Yep.
And it's important. So many young anglers out there don't know the impact that he had on you, I, and a lot of other people. You'll hear Bob Cobb's voice on there.
Yep.
You see historical footage. So that's something that's 100% Sherry that made that happen. She's like, you have got to figure that out. And I'm super thankful. I called up Chase Anderson, who owns Bass, and Mike McInnes, and said, look, I'd love to be able to showcase historical footage in my show. And they were like, absolutely. I mean, they've been,
awesome.
Because look, technology is what it is today, but it's really important to know where you came from too. And that part of it is critical, because that's what I grew up doing.
While we're talking about this has nothing to do with nothing. It's a total left-hand turn. I have made this comment on a Zona show multiple times. The two easiest guests that, and it's more of a fishing style that I've fished with, is Greg Hackney, Aaron Martins. Late Aaron Martins was, Aaron's actually been a guest.
Miss him every day, man.
Miss him every day. I had no idea that he was on Zona show more than any other guest. And I've always made the comment, you were the hardest one And here's the other
We're
side.
so
Hold
different.
on. Here's the weirdest
We're so
part of
different.
that. Here's the weirdest part of that is off camera, I fished with Kevin 1,000 times. 1,000 times. And what's funny is, generally, when we're not taping, he does fish like we fish the same way. We'll plink around and stuff doesn't matter. But when it's game time and we're taping,
When the clock's ticking.
I'm going to give a quick story that I've never told. I've never told this story on camera.
Here we go.
Ever told this?
Cue it up.
This is a good one. So, being a guest on the VanDam Experience was unbelievable. To be the first one on that show ever was an honor. It was humbling. That's something that 30 years ago, if somebody would have said that, I'd been like, "You're nuts. You're on drugs." So, I would always, when Kevin would be a guest on Zona's show, I would try to make it the most apex school of bass ever. Fair? Okay.
I got to be better in the future.
Number
Okay,
one.
I'm waiting for the story. I'm waiting
one.
for the story.
So long story short, I'm up in Escanaba, and Kevin leaves the tournament. Greg Hackney was going to win the Angler of the Year.
Yep.
And on the way up, I stopped somewhere on the Great Lakes, and I found what I thought was the biggest school of smallmouth I had ever found in my entire life. I remember calling Karen and said, I think I'm on 1,000 of them. I'm not saying that jokingly.
You were.
So I go to the tournament, but as all of you know, BS changes within 24, 36, 48 hours. So I'm at the tournament, and and Kevin's like, "Well, how good are you on them?" I'm like, "Good, really good, really good."
Yeah, you didn't tell me, dude, I'm on the biggest school of smallmouth ever. He never said anything like that.
So long story short, they had a weather day, and Kevin was not fishing on the final day. And I said to Mike McInnes, I said, "Mike, is there any chance you can get me the hell out of here?" I said, "That school's going to leave." And Mike's a smallmouth head, and he's like, "Go." So I grabbed 2 usual camera guys. We go to one of the Great Lakes near there, and
To the Holy Land.
To the Holy Land. I'll never forget this. Just really fast story. They were the dumbest bass on planet Earth, and they were in a.
No, they weren't. They were the best.
They were so dumb. They're in about a 2-mile stretch, and I stopped short of the first, and I had a waypoint trail. And Kevin's got a jerkbait in his hand. I said, "Hey, dude, you don't need treble hooks. They're dumb." And Kevin's first cast, I got lined up, and Kevin fires out, and he blows his reel up. And he goes, "Damn it!" And his jerkbait is on the surface, and one goes, "Goosh!"
Like
And
Nat Geo stuff.
Kevin goes, "Wow, you're on him." So anyway.
No, it was, dude. Like that was, and you downplayed it a little bit because we've all been there. They can move in a day or whatever, and that show.
It was 1,000.
It don't show.
Yeah.
We caught them, and like the one would come up to the boat, following one, and they just sit there and they like, look, you could open the tube up and they'd eat it right there. And we've had a lot of special times.
Yeah. A lot of the shows that we've done.
And that's what I wanted, like at St. Clair for our show, that's what I wanted to do, but you can't create that. I mean, we have seen the best of the best.
If there's a negative of your first show ever in the history of your show,
That's a lot to live up to.
You're dealing with 2 people that cannot be satisfied. That was and I said that to there's ADD in the boat. There's cameraman Brandon's trying to get, people are setting a hook. And the other side is you're not listening to a word I'm saying. If you notice throughout that entire VanDam experience, the experience was 2 people not paying a second of attention to each other.
You love, what I need to do is make sure that you got not this rod or not that rod, no baby Z2, no bitsy tube,
That'll never
no
happen.
tube,
That'll never happen.
no
That's not gonna
underspin,
happen.
no jig. I just need to give you a crankbait and a jerkbait, and we'd be great.
What's those two running backs? Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah,
that's
what's
honestly,
those two?
That's honestly what throughout the years
they're
that's
pretty
what
good.
It's ended being.
No, we have a great time, but I have never been more excited to kick off a year in the bass fishing world because, again, like I said before, I'm a fan first. I have loved this sport since day one. I love tournament fishing. I love the anglers. There's things that are challenging right now out there, but I've never felt better about where we're going, what we're doing. We share a lot of partners together. There's a lot of cool new stuff. I know the tournament season is going to be really special this year just because of the schedules, and it's different. When I started, I could keep things secret. Now with live, and the greatest day ever was the class, and I say this for the sport, not for me, but the greatest day ever for the sport of bass fishing was the first day when Mike McInnes made live a reality. Yeah. Bassmaster Classic, Lake Hartwell. Casey Ashley won that event eventually, but when I was on the set to start that day, that morning, because it's the only classic I've never qualified for, when I watched that in person, I'm like, it's over. Everything that I have been able to hide and keep a secret is done. So now there's a million shows, YouTube videos, every tournament's televised and all that. You can't hide anything.
Hey, now listen, for the viewers of Bassmaster
No,
television,
it's great.
hold on, no, there were, and a lot of people don't know this, is there were tournaments that you did well or dominated. There was tournaments you would use a hair jig and look at me and go,
don't talk about it.
Because there was no Bassmaster Live back then, and you said, do not, and you and I would get in vicious
fights,
parking lot arguments because I wanted to do, look, I'm like every one of you, I want to see what's on the charcuterie board. Yeah. Right, I want to see, show me what's on the board.
The silent 6XD. I had to keep it secret.
You did. And what was funny was there was and of all people that came to his defense on the hair jig thing, Kentucky Lake, of all people.
The preacher jig.
Yes.
Yep.
Wish it jig, a lot of different names.
Bill Conine, he's the guy who did it. That's how I got it. Yep. That's where I learned it.
The best thing, if you're watching this, friendo, was my partner in crime on Bassmaster Live. Now, Davey Height comes up, he's like, hey, you need to leave Kevin alone about that whole hair jig thing. We don't need to be getting that out. Now he is the commentator. Yes. It's a true story.
No, so hey, let's switch gears a little bit because it is like technology is a huge deal.
100%.
2025, we've got a bunch of new stuff, and I think every angler is looking forward to like, hey, what do I got to have in my tackle box? What's new? What's legit and new that I've got to have?
What's not BS? What's good?
Again, no BS. The real deal. So I saw you this past week. You're texting me. I'm at a wedding, and you're like, hey, dude, they are biting right now. I'm catching them every cast. He's texting me photos every 2 minutes of a 3 and 4 pounder in Michigan. It's cold as heck.
It was 37 degree water. 37.
And he said, hey, I just had one blow up a bluegill on the top, and they're biting. So, and look, you're using Mega Live too. You're using technology to help you find them and see them because it is like right now they're not everywhere. They're in certain places. So technology is a big part of it, but you still got to give them what they want.
You know what's weird about that was when I was texting you the other day and we posted some stuff the other day was we were working on electronics and I was throwing up an old school blade bait Silver Buddy style stuff and I was on a local lake.
Because you think it's winter.
It's winter. Belly on the bottom, and you're catching them, and I ended up catching 2 bass in the first hour, caught a 3 pounder, caught a 4 pounder, And all of a sudden, Mike? Yeah? All right. All of a sudden, it was done. Wasn't marking anything and stuff like that. And I was with one of the fellas, name's Byron from Humminbird, and I said, hey, before we leave, I said, can we go in that little backwater area right there? And we ended up going in there, and I was throwing that little dude right there, which I've done a gazillion shows.
Here's the devil right there, the
Little
baby Z2.
Baby Z2 on a Ned head. That actually is something I did teach Kevin one day.
He did.
I did.
I will give you that.
It's one of the 3 things in life that I've taught him was, my kids were in the boat long ago. We had no little Ned baits. And I said, hey, put that baby Z2 on it. My kids were going. It was really, really cold water. And I said, hey, this is as powerful as a blade bait. It's as powerful as a little 2.75 paddle tail. You might want to give it a try. And anyway, he texted me. He was out shooting something, or he was with Jackson and Nicholas, and he's like,
oh my God.
He's like, wow, that is power. So the other day, we go in this backwater bay. Water temp was 37. And I throw out, my line goes slack, catch a 3-pounder, and it's every single cast for 2.5 hours. And it was funny. We got done, and that was right before New Year's Eve. And I was texting him nonstop just because I know
he's grilling me.
pisses
I'm at
him
a
off
wedding,
more than
and he's
anything
like, "Oh my
is
God!"
When I'm catching him, and the guy from Humminbird, Byron, he's like, "Man, you look like you're in a bad mood." I said, "Yeah." I'm pissed. I said, "This bay is going to freeze in the next 36 hours," which it already has. But that's the weird thing. Windows like that. Some of the things that we've gone through this year, and you can obviously see this is a KVD side table, a Zona side table.
It's a charcuterie board
it
of a
is.
bass tackle.
Some of the things that you'll see.
One that you gave me. Actually, your wife gave us this charcuterie board.
Actually, no, I did that myself.
You did?
I did.
Nice work.
I did. I do a lot of carpentry. But some of the things that you'll see throughout the year Zona show, homing minnow right there, big time. You'll see a 31-pound stringer on that. And actually, sister company from Strike King and Lou's, Mock, a Mock schooler. Those 2 baits right there.
Pinger.
And a pinger minnow.
Don't forget the pinger.
And the pinger minnow is a little bit more subtle. I'll get into that. But if you look at those 2 baits right there, in 19 years of shooting Zona show, I was fishing with Neil Vandabies, and we caught 5 that way. We weighed them on camera, weighed 31 pounds.
Smallmouth. Yeah.
Smallmouth.
Boom.
In 39, 41 degree water. But the interesting thing about those, very, very subtle. The great thing about this, about the homing minnow, I'll talk to you about this, is 4 of the 12 shows that air this year. Look, I don't get time to go out and find them and know where they're at and, hey, we're on ground zero.
They don't just bite anything.
The biggest thing about this was the hound dog, the search lure of 4 of the 12 shows of the smallmouth and largemouth we caught this year. Was the homing minnow. So a big deal right there.
Well, it's pre-rigged. It's super natural. The colors are exceptional. They come in all the right sizes from 1/8, quarter, 3/8, the sizes that you need to have, 3-inch and 4-inch sizes, both the pinger and that. They're amazing, right? We've had them. But I got to go back to the Z2 or the baby Z2 because they have expanded. Strike King has, out of demand, they have expanded the line. There's 3 sizes now. The 5-inch, there's a brand new 4-inch. This one is, and then the baby Z2, which we have caught 1 million bass on.
Yes.
There's all 3 of those sizes, and that material is, it's Elastec, but it's filled with salt. When you put that on a jig head, it's just way different than anything. It's not the same as a normal plastic worm or anything down there or a Ned bait.
And the other side with that, all new colors coming out with that, new sizes. And the great thing is, if you look at Kevin's content and my content, there's no wrong way to rig it. From a jig head, a Ned head, a drop shot, that's big.
The new fluoro underspin, that with the fluorocarbon leader to it, it collapses. That thing is so subtle in the action. Put a it's built, you made it for a baby Z2. And that comes in all the sizes too. I mean,
I did real quick. If you just come in here on this fluoro spin, the main deal, the main
there's
thing,
not a underspin that even is in the game with that.
So
There's
I
just
had
no way.
Two dudes, Derek and Eric out of Windsor, walk up to me. This is about 4 or 5 years ago, and say, "Hey, we have the best underspin ever made." I threw an underspin for 30 years, and I was like, "Yeah, all right, show it to me." So they showed it to me. So I naturally,
You showed it to me. And
I called him. I'm like, "Hey, we need to make this thing." So these guys from Windsor helped striking out. And the great thing about that's 20-pound fluorocarbon. The biggest key of this, okay? A lot of the underspins have a big blade where they'll play volleyball, especially if you're using forward facing or not, okay? The minute that this hits the water with that small blade and the fluorocarbon that will collapse, it's igniting. It's constantly moving instead of trying to grab water and get traction with look at me talking about a spinnerbait blade without Kevin right now. But the beauty of it is what Kevin said, that fluorocarbon right there will collapse and every fish will get that instead of playing volleyball. So a big thing, the fluorocarbon.
There's not even all that other finesse stuff that's out there, because the size is one thing. There's not another one that's even close. You showed it to me. I fished with it, and look at Castledine. When you showed it to Castledine,
he didn't want to release it.
He's like, no, we got to keep this a secret.
Right.
But it's just, we've got a lot of great stuff. We did.
Talk about that one right there.
Oh, the
It's
hard
cold
liner.
out.
Oh, it's cold. You got to have a flat side crankbait. So this is something I've been using for a lot of years. It's flat-sided homemade wood baits and things like that. Circuit board build. So this is a bait that you can cast. It runs exceptionally deep for that shallow bill. 6-7 feet. It's got super lively action. Got a great rattle to it. Super durable. But it's special. I know these baits. The hair jig, and this is two things that I kept secret over many years.
Yeah.
Is fishing with a lot of the different homemade baits. That one right there, the new hardliner. You definitely for this time of the year, for winter and super early spring, when they're in that zone, there's nothing that makes them react like that.
Now look, so for everybody at home, we got to wrap up. Okay, we're going to do this more often. We're going to do this more. We're going to talk a lot more about, just because I enjoy talking tackle with you, like legit tackle. Like the other thing that Kevin doesn't talk about, and I'm not scared to say this, a lot of the stuff he uses is made out of my garage and his other buddies' garage. Like those are things that next episode.
We got people.
We have people.
We're always working on
those.
Those
are the things that in the next episode, a couple episodes, we definitely want to talk about those things, because what you look at here is where all of that stuff kind of starts. I do want to get fair. I want to get a prediction about tomorrow night's game.
We got a big game. We got a big game coming.
Go.
My Lions
Yeah.
against the Vikings. They're 14-2, both teams. I'd have never dreamed the Vikings were going to even be in this position.
You called him a fraud when we were in Whoville.
I've called him a fraud all season long, and I hope it don't bite me, because they're 14-2 for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. You know the NFL. This guy right here knows the NFL better than anybody that I know. Like, I truly respect his opinion, other than about the Bears, because that's the one team that he's going to be emotional about, because that's his team.
That's right. Listen, all I wanted for Christmas, I told Karen, I want a head coach.
He wants
and
Ben
an
Johnson.
offensive lineman. Not an offensive line. Yeah. I want one line. I want one lineman for the Bears.
So I've told you many times, because I can't do this about the Lions, I'm going to
enjoy.
I'm going to bet with my heart, right? So I am picking the Lions big, and I'm expecting Sam Darnold to be Sam Darnold that we saw in the past one time. He hasn't done it all year, but I'm expecting it. I'm praying for it tomorrow night.
Give me a score. Just give me a score.
So I'm going to say the Lions.
I want every one of you, if you're watching this, message your score in right now.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say 31-27 Lions.
Okay. I'm going 34-31 Lions. I think it's critical that they win this game because
they have to win this
They
game.
have to win this game. I'm going to say somewhere in there, I believe Sam Darnold turns into Sam Darnold and throws it.
So
Look
we
at
both said
Brandon.
it. We
Let's
both said
go.
it.
Let's
So,
go.
On top
Let's
of
go.
that, Frank Ragnow, which you know Frank too.
I do.
So
I
Frank
do.
is the center, Pro Bowl, four-time Pro Bowl center, just won another Pro Bowl.
Frank's not doing anything right now. He's been messaging through it. No,
Yeah,
I'm joking.
no. I hope he's watching film.
Yeah.
You know, but no, he's awesome guy. Loves the outdoors. We got a show coming later this season for the VanDam Experience. Purposely
All right,
held out later.
Give Frank a rating. We'll cut this and snip it. We'll send it to Frank. 1 out of 10. Where's his game? Obviously, he's Pro Bowl center, number 77 on the Lions. Where's his game fishing wise out of a 10? Honest.
Frank is an 8 all day
All right,
as a smallmouth guy.
go.
He's multi-species, man.
Let's go. That's
No,
good.
but he's a 10 because he absolutely, this guy has a passion for it. He loves it. He loves the outdoors. He grew
Now,
up in it.
me, you give him a 10, you get season tickets next year. Boom. Boom. Pay it forward.
Yeah. Okay, Frank, you're a 10.
There you go. All right. It's been awesome. Anyway, VanDam Experience. I mean this sincerely. Kevin, thank you for having us goof around. Like I said, we got to watch this during the pandemic. It was absolutely unbelievable.
I never even got to talk about my new lose.
No, we're going to get there.
we're
We're going to get there.
next time.
We're
Zona.
going there shortly. I've never done any desk work without Tommy, and I got to be honest
I'm
with
not
you.
very good
No,
compared
yes,
to
you
Tom.
are. Did I wrap this up?
Yeah, you just did. Way to go. Cheers.
Cheers, bud.
Love you, bro.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Peace out. And go Lions.
34-31 Lions.